Might be easy to forget that we're heading into the primary season. And Jack, I want to ask you about, the primary schedule coming out. Right now, Florida has its primary scheduled for January of next year. The National Party would obviously like to see that move back much more than a month ahead. Now, this past week, the party leaders in Iowa and South Carolina said the RNC should consider actually pulling the convention out of Tampa if Florida doesn't move. So, and you've been taking a whack also from Chairman Buckley here that New Hampshire hasn't been playing a strong enough role in this, because we see Iowa and South Carolina teaming up to try to get this done. But New Hampshire stayed back, and you said, well, we'll let saner minds prevail.
Yeah, we haven't stayed back at all. I mean, I've met with the Secretary of State, and it's a state law in New Hampshire that we are to be the first in the nation primary. And I've been assured by him that that's exactly what's going to happen. What we don't want to have happen...
But it's up to the Florida legislature.
Well, the Florida legislature has already said, even as recently as today, that they're already thinking about moving back to the end of February. So they're almost back to the first part of March. And in my view, and I've spoken to Chairman Priebus, and he's going to be very harsh with respect to penalizing anyone who breaks the rules. I firmly believe that Florida, by the way, could be the kingmaker if they stay where they originally should have been per the schedule, which is around the first week of March. And I really believe that that's ultimately what's going to happen. I talked to Chairman Priebus as well about the convention, and it's going to wind up being there. We can sit down, and I have no problem discussing these issues about changing the location, but at the end of the day, and they've already moved quite a bit, at the end of the day, I really do believe saner minds will prevail, and I am fighting very, very diligently to make sure that we maintain the first in the nation primary, and I know through our Secretary of State that's exactly what will happen.
Chairman Buckley?
Well, 4 years ago, when Michigan and Florida did a similar situation, I stood strongly, firmly, and immediately with Iowa, South Carolina, and Nevada. And we were able to get a commitment out of all of the Democratic candidates that they wouldn't even campaign in those states in an effort to try to get them to move back. This is unprecedented. It's the first time in New Hampshire history that the Republican State Party hasn't stood strongly for the First in the Nation primary. I don't understand where Mitt Romney is. He's leading in the polls here. It is flabbergasting, when you've got the four early states all saying this is what should happen. So if Jack would only come on board, support the First in the Nation primary, perhaps then you could get some of the presidential candidates in support of our primary.
It's interesting you say you don't understand where Mitt Romney is. I want to show you a map here. I want to close out on this. What you're looking at right now is every state that Obama has visited since he last came to New Hampshire 14 months ago. We're actually going to spare you the international version of this map. But with all due respect to the Plain States and our neighbors in Vermont, simple question. I mean, why hasn't the president been to New Hampshire more? I mean, this is it's a swing state that he did carry. And some would argue, well, he's not going to be in a primary, so he doesn't care. Likely not going to be in a primary.
Well, I think that you're going to see a lot of the president in the next coming months going into the February 14th primary. Obviously, the vice president is here on Monday. The vice president will more than likely be back in a couple weeks after that. And so you'll see enough of the president, the vice president, the first lady. So those sorts of questions. I think right now he's doing a heck of a job cleaning up after the Republican mess and really turning this country around. So quite proud of the work that he's doing in Washington, and I think that we elected him not to worry about re-election, but actually get the job done in cleaning up after George W. Bush.
Quick last word, Jack.
Well, I think we can all agree the country's in a dire mess. The current president of the United States is voting present when it comes to national issues and fiscal issues. So we're absolutely focused on making sure that he's a one-term president.
All right, gentlemen, thanks very much for joining us on the program. We're going to be right back to continue our budget discussion.